So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Here, back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Friday, July 16th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Friday, July 16th here today, as it is obviously the final podcast of the week up until next week, which we will start back up again on Monday. Last night, no sports on whatsoever. The New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox game got postponed last night, so nothing on. It was nothing on last night. It was one of those first nights since really, I would say, when you were in the middle of the whole virus situation. There was no sports on. That was the first time I feel like since that where there was like nothing on TV. All these months here have gone by with baseball, basketball, hockey was on. Now it's not. Even on Wednesday when there was no baseball games on, you had a basketball game on. So, there's always has been something on TV for a long time now. And last night there was really no sports on. There was nothing that would interest me in watching. Scrolling through the channels, and there was nothing. Yankees game obviously gets postponed. Some COVID situation. I don't want to say too much on it right now because I'm going to talk about it in the first topic of the day, so I don't want to say everything now and then just repeat myself when we come to the second topic. But yeah, it stinks. This is arguably I think this is the biggest stretch of the season for the New York Yankees. As I talked about it a little bit yesterday with the Joey Gallo rumors, I talked about the Yankees possibly being in the market for a lefty, and the Yankees, I think what will depend on whether or not the Yankees go after a guy like a Gallo will depend on what we do in these 13 games. And right now, I guess if you want to be an optimistic fan, you could say, well, at least we did not lose. But in a way, we still lost because these are pivotal games. These are games that we need to win to make up ground, and they're getting postponed, and we're not playing, and that's an issue. You got to hope that everyone's okay who has it, and they come back, sooner rather than later. There's some big names that are on the list. There's some guys that have been pivotal. There's an all-star on that list. I don't have to really say, that all-star. Aaron Judge, I'm sure many of you already know. It stinks. The game gets postponed yesterday. I have no clue what's going to go on today, whether or not they are going to play today. Whether or not they're not going to play, whether they're going to play a doubleheader today. If they're going to play a doubleheader, they probably should let us know soon because they got a 7 o'clock game tonight. So if they're going to play a doubleheader, I would probably recommend them saying something soon because the doubleheader is going to have to be during the day. And it's right now when I'm doing the podcast, it would be before the doubleheader, but still, you're probably going to want to say something rather soon than, when the doubleheader is, actually in session, right? You probably want to say something sooner rather than later. With them not saying anything, I would tend to say that the doubleheader is not going to be in play today. I'm not entirely sure, though. So, Yankees game gets postponed. Today's the rest of the MLB. The rest of the MLB starts up today. We got the Mets back on off of the All-Star break. So that's good for, just for me as a fan. If the Yankees don't end up playing tonight, I'll definitely watch some of the other baseball games around the league. And, that's really it. Like I said, not much I got to say when there was nothing on last night. Baseball starts back up today. Hopefully the Yankees are playing today. That's the hope. I would tend to say that, I would probably say right now, maybe I'm wrong, but, right now there's no doubleheader yet. I would tend to say that there's probably not going to be. If they were going to have a doubleheader, I would imagine they would have announced it last night, rather than today. But, we'll see. And this decision isn't on the Yankees. This is from the commissioner's office. So that's really all I got for you. Mets start up a 3-game set today against Pittsburgh. I would assume no issues go on there. We'll see how all that plays out. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast. And NBA, obviously, Bucks Suns resume tomorrow. Not resume. They have another day off today. They'll play again tomorrow. Game 5 tomorrow in Phoenix. The topics for today, as I mentioned, to start off the podcast, I want to get to the Yankees and the Red Sox. the postponement of the game, talk about, the players that are on the list, talk about, what's next, kind of what the Yankees need to do from here. This is something that's concerning. This is something that's obviously, as a fan, it stinks because I was really excited for this series. This is a series that means a lot for our season. And, it just seems like the Yankees just can't get out of their own way. Like, we come out of the All-Star break, you're like, all right, we just got to focus. This is it. It's our new season. And I've been mentioning it a little bit here where you just got to forget about the first half of the season. Your second half of the season, you start off with an 0-0 record. That's how I picture it. Just start off with a fresh start. Forget about the, the 89, 90 games that you've already played. Just focus up on these games. 89 games that you've already played. Focus up on these games and go from here. And sure enough, it's not off to a good start. So we'll get into that, get into the outbreak, tell you some of the players. And the Red Sox, too, have a little bit of a concerning because Aaron Judge is in protocol, and he was at the All-Star game, and Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, both were in the All-Star game. So a little bit of a concern there as well. We'll see how all that plays out. So we'll get to that. Then more baseball. We'll get to Joc Pederson and the Cubs. Joc Pederson has been traded from the Cubs to the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, as we all know, Ronald Acuna a couple days ago before the All-Star break went down with a torn ACL in Miami. It's obviously big shoes to fill. It's not going to be easy shoes to fill. It's not going to be anything easy, but the Atlanta Braves go out and get Joc Pederson or trade for Joc Pederson from the Cubs. It's been pretty crazy with Joc Pederson. It's a guy who went from the Dodgers to the Cubs, now to the Braves, and there's a chance that if the Braves fall completely out of contention by July 30th, there's a chance he's moving on from the Braves to another contender. So he could go a lot of places. He's right now with the Braves, and I think this is a very solid move for the Braves, given that your star player is out. Is he going to give her the production as Acuna? No, but not many players in the league can be as good as Acuna. So we'll get into that. Then we'll get into the New York Sports Update, finish off the podcast for the week. My hope is that we have Yankees all weekend. That's the hope. If we don't, then that's really bad. Just from a fan standpoint, considering that, nothing really to watch in terms of Yankees. My hope is that the Yankees and I will be talking about the Yankees games coming up here. That's the hope, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Hopefully the Yankees get to play. Hopefully this isn't anything major where it's a complete outbreak where there's like another 5-6 guys that we find out need to go in protocol. Hopefully it's just the 6. I mean, you want 0, obviously, but we would like to just keep the number at 6 and, do whatever is best. And we'll see what the MLB decides to do, right? This isn't the Yankees' decision. This is the MLB decision. This is strictly on Rob Manfred and Rob Manfred in the commissioner's office. What he decides is best, he'll make the decision, which I don't know how I should feel about Rob Manfred making the decision. Not that I don't like Rob Manfred, but some of his stuff that he's done with the MLB and some stuff like that I don't like, so we'll see. And obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I was just about to say Yankees-Mets. Mets-Pirates start up a 3-game set today. It's that weird series with them. They've played 7 straight games again, or going to play 7 straight games against each other. So they'll start up a weekend series starting today. That's in Pittsburgh. And I read the Mets schedule to you a couple days ago. They got a lot of winnable series coming up. So this is a big time for the Mets as well as they try to stay and, grow the lead in first place in the NL East. But like I mentioned earlier, nothing was on last night, literally nothing. Even the Team USA basketball game got postponed due to some COVID issues with them, so it's not even like you could watch that. Expedition game, not like actual Olympic game. So that's it. Like I said, don't got much for you, but with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the Red Sox versus Yankees postponed amid New York's COVID-19 issues. Yes, you have heard that right. The New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox game yesterday has been postponed. It really stinks. It really does, especially from a fan standpoint, in terms of just wanting to see baseball, wanting to watch the Yankees, and that's really it. And especially the fans that were going to the game, the fans that have already, I'm sure probably paid for parking and all that stuff, especially for the fans that were going to the game, I'm sure it was awful. I'm not trying to sound, stupid here. We give it, feeling bad for them, but, it's the truth. It does stink that there was no baseball on last night. But, obviously the health of the players and, the safety of the players is obviously what comes first. And any team, any organization, and obviously throughout the league, not just with the New York Yankees, throughout the league, the health and safety of the players, even without COVID, you're talking about injuries and, stuff like that the health and safety of the players always comes first. So obviously I understand why they postponed the game. They did it out of, I don't know if I want to say out of abundance of caution, because it's one of those things where the Yankees now have 6 guys that are in protocol, and I'll tell you those 6 guys in a little bit. They now have 6 guys in COVID protocol. And it's not like an abundance of caution, because it's kind of like they had to postpone the game last night because you already have 6 guys. Hopefully you have no more, but there's a chance you could have more just because of contact tracing and all that. And then you also got to look at the Red Sox side of things. Yes, right now they don't have a case or a guy in COVID protocol, but they did have players who are around Judge, who is now in protocol, and that's how this virus always is, especially when it comes to sports and locker rooms, and that's how it spreads, is you start connecting the dots, and you're like, okay, this guy was with this guy was here, this guy was there, and all of a sudden you start connecting the dots, and oh no, we got ourselves a bigger problem on our hand than just 5-6 players. Hopefully it doesn't get to that. That's the hope. Hopefully it just stays to the 6, and, the Yankees can get back, and those players that are in the 6 can get back sooner rather than later, and we can move on from this and just play some baseball. That's the hope. I would assume, based off of what the MLB has done this season, because they've had excellent success, I believe the last time a game has been postponed was April 17th. So to be honest, we were just about 2 days short of going like 3 months without a game being postponed due to COVID. So it's obviously great to see that the MLB has had success, but we've hit a little bit of a roadblock here. And it stinks that it's with the Yankees and the Red Sox, and it stinks that it comes right in the part of the season where this is the most important games the Yankees have played in a very long time. And you can't blame the players for, this guy's to blame or this guy's to blame. You can't blame them. They got it. You can't blame them. They could have got it from anywhere. They could have got it traveling. Judge, I don't know if they would have traveled on a public flight, but Judge could have got it at the All-Star game. He could have got it anywhere. I don't know if Judge, the guys that are in the COVID protocol, I believe, from what I'm hearing, because it's kind of all over the place. Like, everyone's kind of all over the place with this. Like, you hear some players are in it, then you hear some of the rapid testing. You hear different stuff all over the place because you're getting in different reports. It's such a weird situation. Like, when yesterday the game was postponed, you were hearing reports that it was just the 3 guys, and at first all we heard was they were canceling batting practice. That's all we heard at first, was they were canceling batting practice. And it was out of an abundance of caution. You're like, okay, I'm not really concerned there. And then like 10 minutes later, you hear, okay, they're done. They're canceling the game. And you're like, all right, something must be up here. And then you hear that it's still only 3 players, that they're going to do it for rapid testing. Then you hear this guy's in protocol, and it turns into this whole big thing. And it turns very unorganized. So I have no clue. Supposedly what I'm hearing, what many people are saying, is the guys that went into protocol yesterday, Loaizaga, Wandy Peralta, Nestor Cortez, they were all in protocol. Loaizaga was the first one to really hit COVID protocol. Then Wandy Peralta, Nestor Cortez both went on the COVID IL. Now, yesterday is when they tested all the rest of the team, staff, coaches. I believe they rapid tested all of them. And that's when Judge, Gio, Higgy, supposedly their rapid test came back positive, but I think they're sending it to a lab for further evaluation, which is usually what they do. So that's kind of what's happening here. So the rapid test came back positive. Now, I believe they have like a 90-something rate of being true. Whatever comes back on your rapid test, I believe it's like a 90% chance it's right. So I think they'll send it to a lab for further evaluation, and if it's still positive there, then they're positive. I guess there's that small chance of it being a false positive like it was with Gleyber, because we heard that yesterday too with Gleyber, that Gleyber Torres, his positive test that happened back in May? Remember when they were at Tampa and you had some of the coaches test positive and you had Gleyber test positive? That Gleyber Torres, that was all false. That was false positive. That wasn't true. So that was a false positive that the Yankees... because the guys test every day. I still believe, even with them I still believe they test every day. His test came back positive. They just assumed it was positive, and I believe it was a false positive all along. So that was a little bit of a different situation there. That's why I believe that Gleyber situation didn't really impact the Yankees much, because it was a false positive, so he never actually had it. And in terms of this, if they are all real positives, then it's a little bit of a concern there, because you're all around the teammates and players and stuff like that. But other teams have been able to handle it. It just really stinks, because it's in the situation where this is the most important part of this Yankee season, right? You have 13 games here. 11 of those 13 are against division opponents. 8 of those 13 are against Boston, which is a team that you have struggled against this season. And no matter what the record is, no matter where you are in the division, it's always a fun matchup. It's always a competitive matchup whenever the Yankees and the Red Sox face off. It's one of the greatest rivalries in sports. And then you go to the Tampa Bay Rays, that has turned into a little bit of a rivalry as well. They're a good team, and the Yankees are, trying to get back on track here after a very bad first half of the season. And you have the Phillies mixed in there as well, which the Yankees lost both games to back, earlier in the season back in Philly. But you got to hope that maybe it's a little bit of a different turnaround when they come to Yankee Stadium. And that will be after this 4-game set. You got to hope that this 4-game set doesn't get into jeopardy, because then that backs up everything else. Now, the one thing that the Yankees are lucky is, not that there's much luck out of, having a little bit of an outbreak, but if there is one positive to take away from this, in terms of scheduling, at least they're a division opponent. And it's not like you have to schedule something that's out of the division. At least they're the division opponent, so they will play each other, I believe, again this season. I don't think this is it. I think they probably will play each other again. So if they have a couple off days, or if they do play each other again, they could just do a doubleheader then, right? It's not like they won't play this team ever again. Like, they're going to play the Red Sox, I believe, again this season, because they've only traveled to Boston once. Maybe this is it. I don't know. They might play Boston once or twice more, I believe. Because isn't it 3 times in Boston, 3 times at home, or is it just 4 series, 2 in Boston, 2 in Yankee Stadium? I'm not entirely sure. I know Boston has already came to Yankee Stadium. I know the Yankees have already gone to Boston, and Boston's 6-0 right now. But I don't know. But either way, it's easier when you're in a division, because those are the teams that you play more often. It's not like, let's just say, the Angels would to come in town, a team that was just in town, and you had to reschedule something like that. Number one, it's in LA. It's in Los Angeles, right? That's something that's, to travel one place or the other to make up a set is not going to be easy. Luckily, it's just Boston, New York, which isn't far from each other, and they're in the same division, AL East. But it's bad, because it's just happening right now. And me, like many other Yankee fans, we're all hoping that, the Yankees could come out in this series, really come out on top, and, just hope that maybe we could try to find a way to turn this thing around. We showed some signs of hope on the road trip going 4-2, although we had the terrible loss in the 9th inning that did leave a bad taste in our mouth going into the All-Star break against the Astros. But at this point, you got to be focused on the Red Sox, and it stinks that this series kind of starts out like this. And the second half starts out like this. You really couldn't have asked for a worse situation to start off the second half than to have a little bit of a COVID issue within the team to start off the second half of the season. It really does stink. It really does. You just got to hope that it's nothing major. You got to hope that the Yankees are able to return to play sooner rather than later. I hope that this isn't something that's going to take like another week, and, it's going to postpone a ton of games, because then you're talking about this Yankee season all of a sudden going from, this is like the biggest part of the season to, oh gosh, all these games are being canceled. We haven't heard anything on the game tonight, which means that there's a chance. I don't know if this is true or not. They did this in the NFL. Players might go to the stadium early today to get another round of rapid testing. And then once again later before the game, they might get another round of rapid testing. I remember in the NFL, when there was a couple teams that had COVID outbreaks, they would do like 3 rounds of testing each day. They would do it when they were in the morning. Then they would do, or not an outbreak. Let's just say there was like a player or 2 that tested positive on the team, or a staff member. Game day, I forget who, they might have been the Titans or Steelers or something like that. But it was on game day. They went to the stadium early, got the test. Then it was like they went to the stadium early, got a test. Then, They started warming up, came back in, got a test, and like right before game time, they all got a rapid test. And all those, if they all came back negative, they would go out there and play. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see how everything plays out with the Yankees and the Red Sox. Like I said, hopefully this is something that only postponed last game, and hopefully we can get back to return to play today. But in terms of actually like impact on the team, it does stink because you're talking about Yankees. You're talking about two of the Yankees, some of their best players. I mean, Aaron Judge and Gio Urshela are pivotal to this team. You're talking about Gio, who with his glove and his bat makes a big impact, and you're talking about Judge, both with his glove and his bat, and he's an all-star this year, another guy who makes a huge impact. So in terms of, impact players, it's not like this is just hitting random staff members and stuff like that. No, this is directly hitting guys that have had a big impact on this team in terms of playing, in terms of being big, in terms of being a big contributor to this team. That's Gio Urshela and Aaron Judge. And Higgy has had some really big hits with us this season, and he's the personal catcher to Garrett Cole. And I like Higgy a lot. I would rather him catching than Gary Sanchez. So you're talking about three guys that have made a big impact to this team, and you go to the bullpen, and Loiza's been very good this season, and you have Nestor Cortez, who has been, a hidden gem for the Yankees this season. Wandy Peralta, I believe he was on the IL, came off. Now he's on the COVID IL. We traded for him mid-year. I don't want to be negative and say he has that as an impact, but not as big as an impact as some of the other guys. And that's not any of his fault. It's just because he hasn't gotten much playing time because he came to the Yankees, pitched a little bit, then was on the IL, came off. Now he's on the COVID IL. He hasn't played that much with the Yankees. He hasn't been with us. He got traded mid-year to us. So 5 of the 6 guys that are on the COVID IL have been big-time impact players. And you're talking about 4 of the 6 that are guys that are in games, or 3 of the 6, rather, guys that are in games regularly, and Gio and Judge are your everyday players, right? Everyday players. And Loiza's in that bullpen. He's one of the top guys in that bullpen. Him, Chad Green, those guys like that. Those guys are kind of your guys in that bullpen that you're going to rely on. Nestor Cortez has been a hidden gem for the Yankees out of the bullpen and starting recently. And you go to Judge and Gio, and those are guys that are everyday players, and it stinks. And another thing that stinks about this, too, and I was thinking about this yesterday, because it didn't hit me at first, but then I was sitting there thinking, because I'm like that with sports. I'll just sit there and just think of sports, look over things. I'm a nerd like that. This is like Judge this season has not had an IL stint. This will technically be his first time on the IL. If he's going to land on the COVID IL, this will technically be his first time on the IL. Not the actual IL, but I guess you can kind of consider it. It's not like he's actually injured, but he is on the COVID IL. Which stinks because we're talking about a guy who has played all but 4 games for the Yankees this season. He's been healthy, and it stinks to see him land on the COVID IL. And it stinks to see his second half of the season start off like this. Same thing with Gio and all the other guys. But especially for a guy like Judge that going into this year, his health was such a big, his health was so big. All of us Yankee fans were seeing if Judge could stay healthy for a full 162. And he has so far, knock on wood, he's been very good. But now he lands on the COVID IL. You just got to hope that this doesn't turn into anything bigger where he comes back and he's just not, meaning comes back and then, after that time off, it does, whatever. But, I believe he's on protocol right now, so I don't know if they've officially put him on COVID IL. But it stinks because these are impact players. These aren't just guys that are staff members. These are guys that are impact players. These are guys that are on the field a lot. These are guys that have made impacts on this team, and Gio and Judge being everyday players in right field and third base. And, where do the Yankees go from here? You got 6 roster spots to fill. So they did call up Trey Amburgey. I could see maybe, I don't even know, maybe you could see I was thinking, got thinking actually right before I was going to do the podcast, because I always, take some notes and stuff. I was thinking about before doing podcast about Miguel Andujar. If Gio was to go on, or if Gio on COVID IL, you could have put Andujar third base because he's played there, but Andujar's on the IL as well with a wrist. So now you've got to figure out third base, which I guess isn't I should actually take that back. I guess third base isn't the biggest issue because you could put LeMahieu at third and have Odor at second, which I guess isn't terrible. But then the outfield, you're thin in the outfield already, and now you're gonna have your best outfielder, arguably the best player on your team, now is gonna be out for a little bit, or at least that's what we think is in protocol rather. So that's Judge. You're gonna have to figure out a way. Do you put Frazier out there? Then who do you put in right? Because Andujar's on the IL. That's Trey Amburgey. You're going to have to call him up. But then you got to figure out guys in the bullpen, which I guess is kind of simple. You could probably call up Albert Abreu. Probably call up Brooks Kriske. You could probably call up Nick Nelson. Those guys aren't great, but at least just to have some holders in the bullpen. Albert Abreu's actually made some appearances this season. He's good. He's got a bright future. Just the Yankees have a lot of hard throwing arms. You could probably get something for him if you do decide to move on. But yeah, I mean, that's what stinks, is the Yankees outfield's already thin, let alone when you lose your best outfielder. It makes it that much thinner. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's definitely not a good situation for the Yankees. So let's read this quick article here, give you some more updates. Red Sox versus Yankees postponed amid New York's COVID-19 issues. Thursday's game between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees has been postponed because of COVID-19 related issues within the Yankees organization, the Bronx Club announced. The team announced earlier in the day that it had placed Nestor Cortez and Wandy Peralta on the COVID-19 injured list, and Jonathan Loaizaga, who's not said in this article in that sentence, he was the first one. So he got placed in that Houston series in the COVID list. So he's been on the COVID list. And it's actually something pretty crazy. He's still in Houston. Jonathan Loaizaga is still in Houston quarantining, which is probably such a bad situation for him because he's quarantining and he's away from the team. So it's just not, he probably is not a good situation there. But he's still in Houston, and so now that was a total of 3 plus the guys that they put in protocol yesterday. Speaking with reporters, General Manager Brian Cashman said Cortez, Peralta, and Jonathan Loaizaga tested positive and that 3 results are still pending. So I'm not going to share you the video, but that was what Cashman had to say. Cashman added that most of the players in question have been vaccinated. According to ESPN's Buster, only the trio of Aaron Judge, Kyle Higashioka, and Gio Urshela are in the COVID-19 protocols. Judge represented the American League in the 2021 MLB All-Star Game, which is raising concerns about how the situation will evolve, because now you've got JD Martinez, Rafael Devers, Evaldi, Matt Barnes. They're not all vaccinated, and you've got Alex Cora and the 5 All-Stars, Devers and all them. They're there. So this is what Red Sox manager Alex Cora said. Says he's worried about his team's 5 All-Stars in light of Yankees outbreak. Said that of Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, JD Martinez, Nathan Evaldi, and Matt Barnes. Supposedly not all of them are vaccinated. I don't really know all the stuff involving that. All I know is that, and I thought of that too when I heard, because there was someone tweeted out about it being one of the Yankees All-Stars. So that makes it pretty obvious he's either Judge, Cole, Chapman. So Cole and Chapman obviously are not in the protocol, but they were near Judge. We'll see how all that plays out. And then I thought of the Red Sox players too, because Bogaerts and Devers. I forgot about all the other guys, the pitchers, and the pitchers, they were probably in contact, but I don't know if they would be more immediate contact with Judge, because they were probably more with the pitchers and in the bullpen a lot more and stuff like that. So I don't know if they were more immediate contact, but in terms of Bogaerts and all them, we'll see how that plays out. Cashman said MLB will discussion over whether the Yankees and Red Sox play Friday as a part of their originally scheduled 4-game series. This was the only matchup on Thursday and signified the start of the second half of the regular season following the All-Star break. Beyond the already high intensity in any game between these two rivalries, this also provided the Yankees with an opportunity to make up ground, as New York is 8 games behind the first-place Red Sox. The Associated Press reported in June that 22 franchises had at least 85% of their players on the field and on-field staff vaccinated. That's the number required for teams to have the luxury of relaxing some COVID-19 protocols. The Yankees hit the benchmark in April and experienced some breakthrough cases the following month. Now, I want to kind of make something clear on that. Those cases came from staff members and some coaches. They were not from immediate players. You had, obviously, Gleyber Torres. That was a false positive. He tested positive, but it was a false positive. So he actually never had it. So this is a little different. You could compare it to that, obviously, saying they've already had this situation, but it's a little different. Because staff members, like if you're like a training staff or even just a staff member in general, if you test positive, you're not usually as in immediate contact with some of the other players. So it's a little different. And that Gleyber Torres thing is a little different as well. Because it was a false positive. Which is why none of the other players got it. Because it was a false positive, so he never actually had it. Which seemed weird because when Gleyber got it, I believe that was his second time, or maybe I'm thinking of someone different, but I believe that was the second time, although he never got it a second time, obviously, because it was false. But, like I mentioned earlier, what really I think, and I'm sure the Yankees are feeling the same way, is there's a sense of urgency, I think, in this locker room. And I talked about this yesterday. I was talking about Joey Gallo. And obviously health and safety of the players come first. But I think there is a sense of urgency, in this locker room coming off of the All-Star break, coming out of, that. And the situation the Yankees are in. Because there's no way a Yankee fan can be satisfied with the first half of the season they had. Underwhelming, not good, blowing games, terrible. Simple as that. We did not have a good first half of the season. So you can't sit here and say, oh, well, I thought we did. No. The Yankees need to be much better in the second half. Much better. And I don't mean just better. They need to be like 10 times better in the second half of the season. So in terms of, this series had so much implications on it. I mean, there was a chance, as I mentioned yesterday, the Yankees go 10-3. All of a sudden, they become buyers at the deadline. Yankees go 3-10 in these 13 games. All of a sudden, okay, they're going to take a step back and restart a little bit. Yankees go 9-5, 9-4 rather, 8-5. You're like, okay, we're going to become buyers. Yankees go 2-11 at worst, or 4-7, or 4-9, something like that. Yankees become Yankees become sellers. Then Yankees go 7-6. You got to make a decision. Do you want to go all in, or do you want to take a step back and maybe restart a little bit? That's how much implications not only this series had, but the 13 games and the 9 games after this series. 4 back against the Red Sox, 2 against Phillies, and 3 against Tampa. And even that Philly series is good, big too, because that's a 2-game set that not a lot of people are talking about. But let's just say the Yankees split the series here against the Red Sox, or if we split the series here against the Red Sox, you go into that Boston series, you go into that Philadelphia series, and all of a sudden, that series becomes a little more pivotal. Because if you get swept by them, oh gosh, we're 2-4 in our first 6 games out of the break. And you got to go back and play Boston, except in Boston. So that Philly series, I believe, is pivotal for the Yankees. And it might be one of the more, I know everyone's going to talk about the Red Sox and the Rays, but that's a series. Now, Philly's a very good team. I do believe that. I mean, they got the guys on their team. They just haven't been able to. Their bullpen hasn't been great. Hector Neris has blown a lot of games this season. Their starting pitching has not been what they've had. Very great production for Zach Wheeler. I believe he's 3rd in the MLB in strikeouts, but their pitching hasn't been great. Their hitting's been good. You've had a lot of guys that come up, step big, and hit. JT Realmuto, he's in the All-Star game. Harper, I believe, got snubbed from an All-Star game. He's had a very good season. Like I mentioned, they're a good team. But that Philly series, that 2-game set, that's an opportunity to steal 2 games there and be like, all right, we got 2 games under our belt. And then you got to go to Boston. Now, this is all if the Yankees can get this COVID situation, handled. And, like I mentioned earlier, this is not the Yankees' decision. Like, Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner aren't going to make this decision whether to play. I'm sure they might have a preference if they want to play, and I'm sure they're going to be, on the phone with the commissioner's office and Rob Manfred. I'm sure they're going to be talking things over and giving them the latest updates. But at the end of the day, the decision will be made by Rob Manfred in the commissioner's office whether or not the Yankees not only play today, but whether they play this series at all. We'll see. And I'm sure the Red Sox with their players. I don't know if they will go through this rapid testing like the Yankees did. I'm not sure there. I haven't heard. There's been no new updates since yesterday's being postponed. There's been no new updates throughout the night. No new updates. So far today, although it's still early, no new updates yet. I'm sure get closer and closer to game time. I guess that saying no news is good news. So I guess right now I guess that saying does become true right now because there's been no more updates about any more cases. So I guess that is true that no news is good news. But we'll see how everything else plays out. So the hope is that the Yankees can get this situated and they can play tonight and play the rest of the series. And maybe play. I can't stand the doubleheaders, but if that's what it's going to take to get all 4 of these games in, then you just got to do it. I cannot stand the 7-inning doubleheaders. I cannot stand them. I just don't like, and I should not even get started on these because I could talk about why I don't want the 7-inning doubleheaders for another hour, but I'm not going to because we got to get to the next topic. So that's what I got for the Yankees versus Red Sox here. Obviously a very crazy situation there. Hopefully it gets handled out, and hopefully the Yankees and Red Sox can get some games in. Coming up next here, we got Joc Pederson and the Cubs. He got traded from the Cubs to the Braves after Ronald Acuna's torn ACL. I'll tell you why this is a solid move. I'll tell you why this is a move that is a move that could help the Braves out a lot. Is he going to give the production that Ronald Acuna did? No, but he can be still a solid asset, and he could still be a solid player for this Braves team. We'll get into this coming up next. All right, so we welcome you back here. Joc Pederson traded to Braves from Cubs after Ronald Acuna's ACL injury, and obviously, as we all know, Ronald Acuna with the injury, a couple days ago. I don't want to say it was a couple days ago because it was probably, it honestly was. Today's Friday. I think it happened like Saturday or Sunday. It happened one of the really close days to the break, probably about a week ago or so, when Ronald Acuna Jr. went down with the torn ACL. And kind of get to him first, then we'll get to the whole Joc Pederson trade. It's a terrible thing. It stinks to see. It's awful to see a guy like him with that, ability, his ability to play the game. It stinks to see him go down. And obviously, we always see this in sports where you have young stars, you have guys that are the future of sports, you have guys that have bright futures, you have guys that are, amazing. And Ronald Acuna is one of those guys. That's one of those guys that you're gonna, sign up and see. You're one of those guys that, you're gonna want to go out and watch. And one of those guys that, he every night in and night out, he is putting on a show night in, night out. He's going to do something great. And the Braves, with him losing him, it's obviously it's a massive loss. It's something that I don't know the Braves will be able to come back from this season just by losing your star player like that. Now, the Braves with Acuna, but here's the thing with the Braves this season. Where the Braves are in a situation like the Yankees, in terms of they have the talent, they have the players, they have the guys that have the ability to go out and, win. And they have Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, right? They have those guys in their team that can go out and really be dominant, really go out and be arguably some of the best players in the league. And they have all the talent. And that's with the Yankees, too. The Yankees have the talent. Gio Urshela, Judge, LeMahieu, Voit. The Yankees have talent. The talent is there. It's just, a matter of winning games, getting big situational hits, scoring with runners in scoring position. That's been it. Now, with the Yankees' issues this year, which I just thought of something about the Yankees, Clint Frazier is actually on the IL. So the point that I made earlier is kind of valid that the Yankees could put Frazier because he's on the IL. Forgot about that. But back to the Braves thing. With the Yankees situation, the Yankees just haven't been playing good baseball. Not situational hitting, not hitting with runners in scoring position, a lot of strikeouts, very home run heavy, relying on the home run a lot. Now, our pitching's actually been better. It's our pitching's been a little streaky this season. Started off the year really well, faced a little bit of a dip. Then it's good and it's in. And now I would say our pitching's been better recently. And now our bullpen's all of a sudden taking a little bit of a crash, considering that our bullpen was so good at the beginning of the year. And that's kind of how the Braves have been. Like the Braves, their hitting's been good all year, which not really the case with the Yankees, but their hitting's been good all year. You got Acuna in the leadoff spot. You got a guy like him cranking home runs, getting on base. His on-base percentage very good, hits home runs, gets big hits in big moments. Very hard-hitting player. A guy who is very smart at the plate, too. Not going to chase that much. It's going to take really hard to pitch around him. A guy that a lot of guys do try to pitch around him. You make a mistake, you're going to pay for it. He's that kind of player. And the Braves this season is in one of those situations where it's like their hitting's fine. They're getting hits. They're winning games by hitting, but it's been their bullpen that has been the issue. There's been many games this season where their bullpen has blown leads, not able to, win games, and their bullpen's had some issues this season. And a lot of teams throughout the leagues, bullpens have had issues. The Yankees right now are going through an issue with their bullpen. Now the Braves have had some issues with their bullpen. Every team goes through some issues with their bullpen. And that's kind of been the issue with the Braves. Like, everyone looks at the Braves and they look at a team like, wow, this team's got so much talent, they're not doing anything. But really, it's the talent on that roster, the Albies, the Freemans, the Cunyas, they are doing damage. It's the bullpen. The pitching hasn't been amazing, but it's not like terrible. It's really the bullpen that's been the issue for the Braves. And then Acuna goes down. And don't get me wrong, the Braves still have a really fine shot at making it. Now, without Acuna, I do think they're going to face a little bit of definitely a decline. They're 44-45. It's not like the Braves are 10 games below 500 and they've got nothing going for them. I mean, the Braves right now, I don't even know if I want to say they're keeping their heads above water because they're in a situation where they're below 500. They're not in first place. They're not living up to expectations. And now with Acuna going down, it only makes it worse. Like, people are acting like the Braves are like 10 games above 500, 10 games below 500 rather. That's not true. But they are still not where they want to be. And the injury to Acuna, as I mentioned a couple days ago when I was talking about the Mets, I said now all of a sudden those Braves-Mets series turned into Mets having the big favor, Mets being in favor of that. Now all of a sudden you go into the Braves, and now you got the Braves without Acuna, and they're a completely different ball team. And, everyone always stresses, staying healthy. You want to stay healthy. You want to be the best you can, right? Everyone always talks about that. And then you get injured, and you get injured. It's not like it's just an injury. It's your best player getting injured, and that's very tough. It's something that's not a very good thing. And the Braves go out and trade Joc Pederson, which I understand Joc Pederson's production's been down a lot since that 2019 season where he had a career year, batting up in the 249s and having home runs, smashing in some RBIs, really good with runners on base. Last season struggled a lot. This season has not been amazing. He started off really bad, but he's been much better recently. His numbers this season for Joc Pederson, I would say, aren't a true representation of what he's been doing recently because he dug himself in such a big hole earlier in the year that now he's in a situation where it's like, now he's in a situation where he's like, now he's in a situation where it's, his numbers aren't great, but that's because he started off the year with a terrible batting average. Started off the year batting terrible. And, now he's been better recently. And I don't mean this, I think this is a good trade. And nothing against the Braves and their minor leagues and stuff. I don't know if it's a good idea to go out and just rely on, maybe a minor leaguer or someone just to randomly sign off of the streets or something like that. I don't know if that's a great idea to go out and get a guy like that. I think it's better to go out, get a guy with experience, get a guy with power. Acuna's got power. Get a guy that when he's on hits very well with runners in scoring position, can get on base because Acuna being the leadoff hitter can get on base. Get a guy, mix it up, get a lefty in your lineup. Bring in a guy with some power. That's where I think the Braves kind of thought, that's what the Braves' thought process was, I feel like, here in this move. was going out, getting a guy with power, bringing in a lefty into into the lineup. Maybe a different look, a guy who could play, a guy who could fill in for, Acuna. Acuna obviously being a right fielder. Joc Pederson plays the outfield. You needed an outfielder. This is the National League. It's not like you could just sign him it's not like you could just put him in outfield or put him at DH. He's going to be the outfielder. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what the Braves do decide to do with Acuna when the trade deadline, or not Acuna, Joc Pederson when the trade deadline comes around. Because let's just say the Braves, when the trade deadline comes around, they're 44 and 45. Now, let's say when the trade deadline comes around, I don't even know how many games they have until then. I assume pretty much every day. Until the trade deadline comes around, let's just say they got, I don't know, let's say they're like 50 and 57 or something like that. And they're not playing good baseball. They're really deep in the division. They're in fourth place. They're not in a good position. Let's just say that. Joc Pederson could very well be traded to another contender. That's how I see it. Now, if Joc Pederson's hitting well, maybe the Braves win some games here. The Braves have a series up against the Rays, which isn't impossible. It's not going to be easy, but if the Braves can find a way to string a couple hits together, get some runs, they can win a couple games there. Now, you look at Joc Pederson and you're like, okay, this is a guy who I feel like with the Braves, they could be treating like this. This guy's got about 20 games to prove himself. Or not even 20, I shouldn't say 20. I would say more like 15 games to prove himself. If in the 15 games he's here, he's batting like 170, not giving you production, not doing anything helpful, then you go ahead and say, at the trade deadline, we're giving this guy up, not to just a contender, but going to give him up somewhere else. If he's giving you excellent production, or maybe if he's batting 170, you have to keep him because I don't know if a team's going to go out and get him. But if he's giving you excellent production, but the Braves aren't winning and it's not translating into wins, the Braves could very well go ahead and say, you know what, we can actually get something for Joc Pederson right now. Joc Pederson could go to a team, he could go, like a team like the Yankees. I'm not really saying that he's going to, but this is a chance he could go to a team that needs a lefty bat. That's also a chance. I would probably tend to say that's not going to happen because it's very rare to see a guy get traded and about 2 weeks later get traded again. We've seen that a lot of times in sports. But, right now we stand here July 16th. So we're just about 2 weeks away pretty much from the trade deadline. So give him about 2 weeks and we'll see what happens. And some people obviously are kind of sitting here and speculating, well, the Cubs just traded away Joc Pederson. Does that mean they're kind of in a selling mode? I would tend to say no, only because, it's just one trade. It's not like they traded Anthony Rizzo or Chris Bryant or Javier Baez. They traded Joc Pederson. And going into this season, Joc Pederson was going to be a guy that, he was obviously going to go out and, they thought he was going to be, a contributor, and he did contribute to a certain extent, but not enough. And I think a lot of people might be taking this and running with it a little bit. Oh, the Cubs just traded Joc Pederson. Are they selling? I don't think so. I think they saw an opportunity. If I had to choose, I would probably say that the Braves called up the Cubs, not the Cubs saying, "Oh, you want Joc Pederson?" It's a smart move it's a smart move for the Braves. Now, like I said, is Joc Pederson going to put up the production that Ronald Acuna did? No, I don't think so. But you also got to realize that Ronald Acuna is one of the best players in the league. So not many guys out there are going to be able to duplicate the production that Ronald Acuna is going to do. Your lineup has still got a hole in it. Still got a big hole. But now adding a lefty, maybe a different look, a new face in the locker room. We'll see how it plays out. We'll see how this move goes. But like I mentioned with Joc Pederson, he's been better recently. He started off the season really bad, then got on the streak where he was hitting really well. He's kind of maybe evened out a little bit now. But you just got to hope that maybe you get some production like what he was doing in 2019. When he had a big year there. When he had a big year in 2019. And we'll see how it plays out. We'll see we'll see how this move goes. We'll see if he does produce the way that the Braves want him to. Like I said, is he going to go out there in Acuna and smack home runs all over and hit singles and doubles and get all these RBIs? No. But Acuna's an MVP candidate before the injury. So not many guys are going to duplicate the success of an MVP candidate. It's still a big loss. It's still a big loss. It's big shoes to fill. I think Braves fans, Braves coaches, the Braves organization have also got to realize we can't expect this guy to go out there, bat 290, bat 300 with us, crank in 10 home runs and get 20 RBIs. You can't expect that. Like, I don't think the Braves, when they're picking up Joc Pederson, are going to expect that much production. But it's a solid move because you need a guy that's going to be able to play outfield, be good on defense. Joc Pederson's good on defense. It's been his bat that has struggled the past 2 years. Got a guy that's not old, but a guy that's, been in the game, experienced some winning, and lefty bat, and a guy who can, he's shown that he has the ability to be a really good player. It's just trying to find that ability again because he struggled a little bit recently. So we'll see. But let's get to this article here. Joc Pederson traded to Braves from Cubs after Ronald Acuna's ACL injury. Chicago Cubs outfielder Joc Pederson was traded to the Atlanta Braves on Thursday in exchange for first baseman Bryce Ball. The 29-year-old spent his first 7 years of his career with the Los Angeles Dodgers, winning a title with the team in 2020. He struggled immensely during the regular season, though, hitting just 190 in 43 games with 7 homers and 16 RBIs. While Pederson has never hit for a great average, he's a career 230 hitter. It was disappointing as it was a disappointing season after his career year in 2019, 249 with 36 homers and 74 RBIs. Going into last year, he had posted 25 or more homers in 4 of his previous 5 seasons, and was on pace for 18 homers in a 162-game season in 2020. The Cubs were hoping to get the 2019 version of Pederson signing to a 1-year, $7 million deal this offseason. The deal has a mutual 2022 option for $10 million with a $2.5 million buyout. While his season doesn't appear likely to come anywhere close to the 2019 heights, he's batting .230 with 11 home runs and 39 RBIs. He's been better than last year. The Cubs struggled heading into the All-Star break and decided to move on as they potentially look towards something of a rebuild in the coming seasons. As for the Braves, they now have more power in their outfield after losing Ronald Acuna Jr. for the season to a torn ACL. And, the Cubs, I do think, I could read you the standings here. I do think the Cubs are getting to the point where, it looks like they might look towards a rebuild. Right now, the Cubs stand at 44-46. They're 2-8 in their last 10, and they've lost. They're on a losing streak of 1. This was a team who, about 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking about being buyers. And now they're 44-46. And they're third place in their division. 8 games back from first place are the leading Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central. And you look at the Braves, and they're in a less bad situation. They're 44-45. They're 4 games back. They're 6-4 in their last 10, a losing streak of 1. And you look at them, and you're like, okay, they're 4 games back. They're only 4 games back. Like, if you can just find a way to string a couple wins together without Acuna, you could be good. I think they're going to tend to struggle without Acuna. That's just me. In the Cubs, they didn't get much in return. I mean, Bryce Ball, not trying to be negative, but, I've never heard of the guy. So, it's not like it was anything major. But, it's something that, we'll see how it all plays out. And Joc Pederson going to the Cubs, or going to the Braves, 2 third-place teams. The Cubs kind of get what they want, a little bit of a salary dump-off. They weren't getting the production that they wanted, and the Braves get what they want. They need a guy that's going to try. They need a guy that's going to at least give them some production in trying to fill in for Acuna. That's really how it is. Simple as that. And we'll see how it all plays out. So, that's what I got for the Joc Pederson trade there. All right, so that's what happened on the trade there. I was just getting back to the MLB page here. So that's what happened for the trade. And, comment down below your thoughts on the trade. It's not a major trade. It's not like this guy got traded for this guy, and that's a big trade. It's not like this is not a trade that's going to go like make your team go from here to all the way up here, or make your team go from here to down here. It's going to make their team, if anything, it's going to be better, or it's probably going to be the same. I don't know if it's going to make them worse, because I think automatically they're not as good without Acuna. I think that's simple as that. So that's what I got for that. And, let's get into the New York sports update, or as I should say, MLB games today. As for yesterday, there was the Yankees game got postponed, obviously. As for today, we got the Twins, Tigers. I'll give Twins the win. Marlins, Phillies, give Marlins the win. Marlins, Phillies again. I'll go Marlins in the first game, and I'll go Phillies in the second game. Mets, Pirates, we'll get to them in a second. Padres, Nationals, I'll give Padres the win. Blue Jays, Rangers, give Blue Jays the win. Reds, Brewers, give Brewers the win. Tigers, Twins again. I'll give Twins the win. Braves, Rays, give Braves the win. Astros, White Sox, give White Sox the win. Or actually, Astros the win. Cheaters the win. Royals, Orioles, give Royals the win. Cardinals, Giants, give Giants the win. Dodgers, Rockies, give Dodgers the win. Angels, Mariners, give Angels the win. Cubs, Diamondbacks, give Cubs the win. A's, Indians, give A's the win. We've also got this. So, Mets, Pirates. Mets come in this game 47-40. Pirates come in this game 34-56. Mets got Marcus Stroman on the mound. He's 6-7, a 2.75 ERA. This game goes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern time. You can find this game on Sportsnet Pittsburgh and SNY. No updates on the who will win this game here. The Pirates pitcher has not been announced, so I'm gonna give the Mets the win either way. Start up a 3-game set. Give me the Mets. And as for the Yankees and the Red Sox, I'm going to read you the starting pitchers and all that for the time being. We got Yankees versus Red Sox. The Yankees come in this game 46-43. Red Sox come in this game 55-36. Boston's got Martin Perez on the mound. He's 7-5 with a 4.04 ERA. Yankees got Jordan Montgomery on the mound with 3-4 with a 4.16 ERA. This game comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern time on MLB Network. You'll also find this game on Yes Network. 52% of people think the Red Sox will win. With the Yankees being so thin, I think it's going to be difficult for them to find a way to win. I don't even know who's going to be pitching today, if it's going to be Monty or if it's going to be Herman, because Herman was technically supposed to pitch yesterday. It's just so tough to give a winner when you don't even know if the game's going to be played. You don't know if there's going to be a doubleheader. You don't really know who's going to be in the lineup. Yankees are going to have to make some call-ups if they are going to play. So it's kind of tough to give a winner. I would say if you had the advantage, it'd probably be the Red Sox. They would probably win if the Yankees are going to be this thin. That's how I see it. But like I said, I don't even know if there's going to be a game. If I was the one not making the decision, I shouldn't say this. If I had to choose whether or not I think the Yankees would to play today, deep down inside, I feel like if they can find the minor leaguers and nothing else, no other positive tests come through, I think they will. But if the Red Sox, and their players maybe all of a sudden start to go down or something like that, then you're like, okay, now we got a really bad situation. We'll see. We'll see how everything goes. Hopefully the Yankees are done with all their protocol guys. Hopefully no one else goes in there because the Yankees have already gotten hurt by this. You're talking about, too, like I mentioned earlier, you're talking about guys that have made impacts on this team. We're not talking about random players or staff members that are in protocol. These are guys that have made real impacts on this team, and we'll see how it all plays out. So let's get into the fantasy baseball update here, or whatever you want to call it. I'm currently losing 367 to 277. Today I've got going Yadier Molina, Jesus Aguilar, Jake Cronenworth, Gene Segura, Marcus Semien, J.P. Crawford, Matt Olson, Christian Yelich, Whit Merrifield, Austin Meadows, Avisail Garcia, Josh Harrison, and Franmil Reyes. I will read you the acquisition I made here in a second. And then today I also got Zach Eflin and Chris Bassett on the mound. So I made a move today, and I made a move yesterday as well. So with Jonathan Loizaga being on the COVID IL, or whatever you want to call it, being out, I wanted to do this. Let's get to this here. So, all right. So Jonathan Loizaga being out, I dropped him and added Andrew Kittredge, who has had a very good season. He's 6-1 with 2 saves, 43 strikeouts, 1.47 ERA, .86 WHIP, and 156 points. So he's had a very good season. I picked him up. 25 position rank, 4.9 average points, 13.5% rostered, and 2.4% of leagues percent have rostered him. So I picked him up, and I also made a move. I dropped David Peralta and added Jesus Aguilar. So Jesus Aguilar has been really good recently. He's batting .268 this season with 29 runs scored, 15 home runs, 262 RBIs, no stolen bases. He's at 200 fantasy points. He's 10th position ranked, 2.3 average points per game, and he's rostered in 72.8% of leagues and 3.1% of leagues, and plus 3.1% of leagues recently. And recently, 3.1% of leagues have added him. So this is some of his numbers: 9 points, no points, 2 points, 2 points. So he's been very good recently, and I picked him up. First baseman DH gives me a little bit of flexibility. I also figured too. I don't know how long he'll be on the team, but I also figured too with him is I'm not sure Voit. I'm not sure when the Yankees are going to play. They could not play this entire. They might not play this weekend, which I would need someone else. So right now, Voit's on my bench. Now, if the Yankees do play, I might think about putting Voit in, but I'll have to see the matchups and all that stuff. So no real news on the injury front other than this update on Manuel Margot. Margot hamstring has resumed hitting off a tee. Neil Solondz of Rays Radio Network reports. Other than that, no new updates. No new updates on Bregman or Tyler Glasnow. There is a little bit of an update on him. It's from yesterday. Glasnow elbow has resumed playing light catch. Neil Solondz of Rays Radio Network reports. So an update on him and an update on Manuel Margot. Hopefully those guys are back soon, as they are. They've been good key contributors. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there in fantasy. I always feel like this with the Yankees because I got thinking about this yesterday a little bit and then today. And I don't want to spend crazy amount of time on this because we're already past an hour here. But with the New York Yankees, right? So when Corey Kluber threw his no-hitter, the Yankees, it felt like, there was so much, everyone was so hyped up, everyone was so happy. It was great, all that stuff. It was so exciting. Yankees go in and, the no-hitter and everyone's like, oh gosh, like that's great. The Yankees, we look really good. And then, and you're like, okay, maybe this is a turning point for the season. Because at that point, the Yankees were still struggling. And you're like, maybe this is the turning point. And then Corey Kluber goes down. He gets injured his next start. And it's like, and it kind of just like, you just completely forget about the no-hitter. And it's like, all that stuff. And then now, right, Cole throws the 9-inning shutout on Saturday. And not saying that we all thought that was going to be the turning point in the season, but it's like a big start. It's like 9 innings. Everyone talking about all the sticky stuff and the spin rate and all that stuff. He went out there, just pretty much just took everyone that's saying all that stuff and just shut all them down and went out there and dominated for 9 innings against his former team. And you're like, wow, like the Yankees are actually showing some energy here. Then we were 3 outs away from sweeping the Astros, and we blow the lead. And now we have this. So I feel like every time the Yankees have like a big moment in the season, something bad happens after that. I was thinking about that yesterday. Like Corey Kluber throws a no-hitter up. His next start, he only goes 3 innings. He's injured. He's been injured ever since. And it's like, it's like everything, it's just the no-hitter is like, the energy is just like done. And then you go out and Cole throws that great performance, and you're like, we're 1 game away from sweeping the Astros. You're 3 outs away from sweeping the Astros. You blow that game in the 9th inning, and then now you have a COVID issue, and you're like, man, like wow, like this just isn't good. And I mean, and that's kind of how it's been with the Yankees this season. Like they have a big moment, and then something else just backfires on them, and then that moment gets lost in the mix. So, I was just thinking about that today, or even last night. I was just like, Yankees have a big moment. You have the no-hitter, you have the 9-inning shutout and all that stuff, and then something else happens, and you forget about it, and like all the energy from that is just like taken out. Now, don't get me wrong, that Cole game was still amazing. That's a game that I still, will think about, and that was amazing. But now you have the COVID issue, and you're like, oh great. And you're like, you have the issue, your COVID issue now, and you're like, this isn't good. That's what seems to happen. But that's what I noticed with the Yankees anyway, in terms of, having big moments throughout the season and then something else happening and completely just taking away all the positive stuff from that moment. That's what seems to be happening right now. And like I said, I could check right now. No new updates on this Yankee game today, whether or not they're going to play. I could check right now. I mean, not mean much, because if I tell you on the video, you'll already probably know by the time this video gets uploaded. Because I do the videos earlier than I upload them. Yeah, so no new updates here on the Yankees, whether or not they're going to play. I'll check here. No new updates on the Yankees whatsoever. The latest update we got from the Yankees is this. This was yesterday, 17 hours ago. Following positive COVID-19 tests within the Yankees organization, tonight's game between the Yankees and the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium has been postponed to allow for continued testing and contact tracing. MLB will continue to provide scheduling updates as available. That was yesterday. That was the latest update we got from the New York Yankees. So nothing has been reported since that. That was the last update we got from the Yankees, was the postponement of last night's game. So since that, we've gotten, and that was all the other Judge and all them entering the protocol. So since that, we've got no more updates. So hopefully they play tonight. We'll see if it's a doubleheader. We'll see what they do. Whatever the case is, I'm sure something's going to have to come out sooner rather than later. I would imagine doubleheader's out of the equation at this point. I mean, I can't imagine, doubleheader today, like just announcing, we're playing a doubleheader. I think if they're going to play a doubleheader, they would probably play it either tomorrow or Sunday. Oh, that Sunday was supposed to be a Sunday night game. So I don't know. I mean, that's an ESPN game, Sunday night, nationally televised, 7-inning game. That's not ideal, but we'll see how it all plays out. So hopefully the Yankees play tonight. Hopefully they play throughout the weekend. Obviously, we'll all see. Obviously, as you all know, I take breaks on the weekends, so I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Hopefully there's Yankees baseball on throughout the weekend. That's the hope. And, with all that being said, that will do it for another week in the books. Another week in the books full of podcasts. As you all know, I will take breaks on the weekend, so I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.